born and raised in East Orange. We moved to Madison. The one teacher that pretty much decided that the regular conventional school for me was not for me. And Aggie White, and she had said that I think if we, suspend, Sonny until such time as he can come out and legally, resign from school at age 16, and I went right to work at Park Avenue Garage with Dickie DiBiase. And I just loved what I was doing, and I was happy. I mean, the school wasn't for me. I think I was at that time maybe 14. I think I was like 14 years old. But in school I was like one of the greasers, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, and pretty much the word spread around, and I was getting people to drop off their cars. My father would even make comments about, what the heck you doing, turning this place? It was a nice neighborhood, and here I have a shop working on cars. And then there was people at the New York Coliseum saying, geez, I'd like my car done. And I'm like, and then my mom and dad were getting phone calls at their house about this body shop, which there was none. But then I had to find one, and I found a shop. Cars to me are just like having a painting maybe by Picasso. Why would you spend that much money for a painting? Well, number one, you have to really love it, the art, and just to know that you have something that there's only maybe one of. But to show what your bike or your car or truck, whatever you might have at the time, you would want to go like to say a sanctioned show. Back then it was the ISCA, and that would be like in White Plains, New York, or the New York Coliseum. If you have a piece and you feel as though it's that nice, you put it in that arena where it's judged by people like myself that build cars. Because I traveled the circuit, and they would have, I think, the East Coast, Midwest, and then the West Coast cars. There would be different circuits. And I ventured out of my backyard, for lack of a better term. Like at the end of the show, the awards I really wanted to win were Best Paint and Show, People's Choice. And I'm pretty much known for, like, if Sonny painted this thing, look at the edges of the door, Look inside the door, you won't even see, it's probably painted. I remember one time when I entered a car in the New York Coliseum, that's where it was debuted, and it was a 62 Corvette, and the frame was just absolutely insane. And they were looking it over, and they had little like dental mirrors, and there was only about 1/4 of an inch from the body to the top of the frame, and it was all done. You couldn't even see. And you don't want to get cocky, but you pretty much want it when you're looking at, like the New York Coliseum, I might have 10, 15 cars. A fellow that I knew, and one of the people in the industry that I have a lot of respect for, is Big Daddy Ed Roth. I mean, he'd put you'd have the headlights in the front of the car, but they'd all be off to the left. And the other side there'd be a scoop. And I sort of like that concept rather than, symmetrical. And when you get into this business and you do so many, you're challenging yourself on what can I do that's maybe even, I've had it said to me like, Sonny, this is sick. Like on a motorcycle tank, I remember one time I took a pair of laced underwear from a girl and stretched it over the tank, and then pulled it at different angles and taped it and had it look all, that was for the drummer for Tommy James and Shondells, Pete Lucia, that wrote Crimson and Clover. And I had one police officer that was standing outside of my shop that I had in Mine Hill, New Jersey, and he's standing there, he says, I thought you were having a convulsion or something, because I was running around, there was nobody else in the shop, and he was standing there, he tapped on the window and scared me, and he came in, he says, what's going on? I said, and he stood there, he goes, and it was the keyboard player's car from Tommy James and Shondells, his Pontiac Grand Prix. And I think perfection and crazy is almost like the same type of, it's the same meaning. He's a very, very creative man. I mean, he does some beautiful fabrication. He called me up one night and he said, why don't you come down? He said the car that actually Roger Moore was going to drive in the movie Live and Let Die. He said, do one of your pearl paint jobs on this, I said, yeah, okay. And I just like it was yesterday. It was freezing cold, snowing. I'm coming from Mine Hill, New Jersey, to Boonton, and I walk into the shop, and it was a bad snowy night. The heat was on, and coffee and donuts, and there was the car all ready for paint. And I'm like, whoa! Put a nice pearl paint job on it. And I love him as a person and a friend, but like I had said in previous, he's a fabricator, he's a designer, he's a builder. And what he was building was hot at the time. Everybody wanted one, whether it be the Corvorado, the Cabalista. The Cabalista I personally like because he took that miniature Eldorado and he made something that was completely custom.
A Cadillac was building Eldorados, and you couldn't get an Eldorado in the 70s. Mm-hmm. It was a hot thing to have. If you didn't have an Eldorado, you didn't have it. So I says, if I could create a small miniature Eldorado, my customers would have another car. That's something that Detroit can't do. And I did fancy paint jobs.
Oh yeah,
I did a lot
yeah.
of them.
Yeah,
I did
yeah,
motorcycles.
yeah.
We never had any
Yeah.
problems.
Nope.
And if someone came in and they wanted something that is, well, I'm going to go to the New York Coliseum, or I'm going to go to Cobo Hall, or I'm
Yep.
going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I want you to paint the car, and I want you to do it.
Yep.
Time out. You don't want me to do it. I can build it, but if you're going to go into it for trophy, competition, detail, you don't want any gnats in this thing, and only a speck of dust in it, I says, go see Sonny. And if you're going to go into a car show in competition today, you got to go in with a good pocketbook. But you could have the biggest pocketbook in the world and have the wrong builder.
Correct.
And you're not going to win.
Perfect. And then all these kids are like, well, how come you're not just...
How come you're not?
Look, listen, don't, and I'm cut, and I'm just, leave me alone. And I even put in, again, the 69 Cadillac taillights and the 40 Chevy on an angle.
Yeah.
And they're saying, well, they're fiberglass fenders, how are you going to do it? I said, I just said I'm going to do it. Watch me. You get a cardboard cylinder, you soak it in fiberglass resin, and they're all like, and then they thought they learned it. The one guy all of a sudden is chopping a topper. I said, you have spent a couple of weeks or a month with me. You're looking at 46 years of stuff I can show you.
Yeah.
You think you're ready to book because you just learned how to chop that top and put a set of taillights in? Guys, come on.
They're going to make mistakes that took us 30 years to figure out. And if they knew what that mistake was and how to correct it, they could cut that 15-year learning program down to maybe 10. Or if they're really good, maybe down to 5. I feel a soft spot in my heart for the guys that don't have that money. Mm-hmm. And they are in the cruise nights. Yeah. And they're the ones that are coming up with rat rods.
Yep.
And I still go back to the childhood days.
Yep.
And those guys will be the next. Somebody will spring out of that that era of people and hopefully jump in the shoes, step above us because we're the old dogs, and take this whole sport to another level.
There's no such thing as a perfect year or a week or a month or whatever, but I had a lot of good memories of things I've done. I really loved it, and I looked at it as family.